Welcome to Engaging with Monique, a podcast where you can find inspiration and hear from people who are engaging with the world in exciting and inspiring ways. Let's jump right in with Monique.
Hi, I'm Dr. Monique Henderson here with Engaging with Monique, a program designed to inspire and challenge you to make your world just a little bit better and to find meaning and joy in your daily life. Today, I'm excited to have with me the Reverend, we call you the Reverend. The Reverend Bruce Case. Bruce and I have known each other for, oh gosh, we said that when I was 11. So about 9 years in some way. And I got to encounter Bruce when my family moved back to Mississippi from Texas, and we were looking for a church home, and our paths got to cross some that way. Bruce, we're going to jump right in. We're going to talk about a few things today, not necessarily so much your role as we'll talk about your work as pastor because it really informs a lot of what you do, but more who you are, how you're making sense of the world right now, and why. Let's jump in and tell us what's it like to be you and how are you spending your time these days?
Thanks for having me, Monique. This is amazing. And I can remember when y'all moved in and when you started coming to church, and how excited I was to see y'all and get to welcome you in. And
With all our crazy questions.
it was fantastic seeing John. I'm seeing Hunter this morning too, and boy's grown up since he was 11 years old.
Kids do that. It's crazy.
They do, don't they? What is it like to be me, you ask?
Yeah.
Wow, that is one complicated question. But what it's like to be me during this season of my life is that my days are very full. I've got my attention on a lot of things. And maybe lots going on, lots of plates spinning, but they're fun plates to spin. It's what I think someone a long time ago used to call it's eustress. It's not distress. Yeah. And so I've learned this. We're all different. We all have different speeds, thinking speeds, life speeds. And I don't think there's one right speed. You got to find your speed.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And at 55 years old, I think I've found something in the last year or so that has really helped me maintain peace, stay focused on the things that I can control, not worry so much about what I can't control, and not worry so much about what people think about me.
So did you get on Prozac or what?
Yeah, maybe it's my natural Prozac. I'll tell you, I'll go back and tell you, really a key moment in my life was during COVID. And for someone who thrives off being in groups and extrovert, a pastor that loves building community and building things.
You're like a poster child of someone that COVID would be very hard for.
Yeah. And there was
sort of sad, but then also it's nice that it's quiet here.
Yeah. And a little bit, there were parts of it that I did enjoy. And I do like alone time. And but one feeds the other. But what happened in COVID was not simply lack of community, but it seemed like many people, not everybody, but many people were on their worst behavior. So it really caused me to question all kinds of things, and it really challenged my faith.
Yeah.
And
also people were dying.
Yeah.
Clarify, I didn't want to make light before of
no doubt.
To even be able to joke that I was home and it was quiet is a privilege that many people
don't have doing funerals, COVID funerals, very strange. And so it's really tough. And the church I was in Hattiesburg was great. Tons of really amazing people at Parkway Heights where I was, but I needed a fresh new start. And part of that was COVID and all the controversy and stirrings of the world as the world shifted.
But they've all been resolved now.
They've all been resolved now, right? We're in utopia now. Everybody loves each other. It's unbelievable. It caused me to ask myself, what really makes me happy? What am I really supposed to be doing and where am I supposed to be? And I came to the conclusion after wondering if maybe it was time to even transition out of the parish ministry.
Oh, wow.
Then I decided after some deep thought I maybe needed to be in a smaller church where I could have one foot in the church and one foot in the community. At least in the United Methodist Church, and I'm sure it's true for other denominations or non-denominational churches. The larger the church, the deeper the bunker you're in. And so I felt I needed to get out. I've always felt I thrived when I was part of a church, but I also had one foot in the community and one complemented the other. So when I told the bishop, I said, send me to a smaller church.
Wow.
I want
It's the opposite, I would assume, of what the
it's
desire.
it's a little bit
Perceive?
different. Yeah.
Perceive
Oh,
desire.
bigger church. Yeah, exactly.
This ladder, right?
Yeah, you're climbing the ladder. But you realize bigger's not always better. And so I asked, I said, send me to a smaller church. So after 5 years at Parkway Heights in Hattiesburg, I wound up at St. Luke's United
Right.
Methodist in Jackson, here in Jackson, in Fondren, in the Fondren area, kind of a cool sort of vibe pub area in Jackson.
I'm headed down there to have
Yeah,
coffee with my daughter
there
after.
you
Yeah,
go.
no.
So in a small church where I kind of got back to the basics, but I also had a chance. Brandon Jones takes me to lunch one day and tells me about a nonprofit organization that deals with a lot of justice issues. And that's always been a passion in my life. Anyway, how do the systems work to help serve everybody, that doesn't grind up the poor and this, that, and the other thing. And so he worked for SPLC, and he told me that a position was coming open with SPLC as a policy associate. And I said, "Oh, that's great, Brandon, but I'm having good time at St. Luke's.
Oh.
I'm not interested." And he said, "I'm not telling you have to quit church. You can do these alongside each other." And he said, "In fact, they overlap. So many of the things that you'll be doing here in
Idea.
Monique." And so pushed me way out of my comfort zone. I applied, I got that job, and I've been doing really both roles for over a year now. And it's been phenomenal.
That's
I
amazing.
feel like a kid in a candy store. And so
Your energy's always up.
Yes.
So love is Bruce would be perfect for this. But I felt something in you, a little extra something in you when you came in today. I see it.
I have felt more alive in the past year because I feel like it so well connects with my preaching and my teaching, and they dovetail one another. And so I'm building relationships with senators and representatives. I'm building relationships with people who form public policy in Mississippi. And it's also helping me be a better pastoral leader because I'm also leading groups of clergy beyond my tradition all over the state of Mississippi.
Wow.
Clergy who want to make more of a difference. How do I talk to representatives? How do I make a difference there? How can I do that? And how can I speak intelligently to the issues that affect my congregation and my community? And it's amazing how it's much the same. In both realms, it's about building relationships, building
Right.
trust. And that's kind of what it's like to be me. As if that's not enough on my plate, I'm a tennis official. I go to on Saturdays, sometimes on Fridays Friday afternoons, when I have a chance. For instance, I drove not long ago. I was in Lafayette, Louisiana, and being an official for Louisiana Lafayette, North Alabama, McNeese State, and what was the fourth one? Louisiana Tech. And that's a whole different side of me. It's a different kind of, somebody might think it's stressful because when you make a bad call or you make a call that they don't like, you're going to get chewed out by the coach. But it's almost, I get to almost be somebody else for it, which is serious, by the rules. But it's fun. And I'm doing that. What is it like to be me? I love to read. I'm reading right now a book called Local People, which is civil rights from the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s in Mississippi. And it's the seminal book about civil rights in Mississippi. And it names names.
Wow.
And I grew up in Brookhaven. It names Brookhaven. It names Macomb. And so it's, my gosh, I've heard that name before. I know about that business. And
There's
so
a
it's really
book
good.
I read in my young adult years called Terror in the Night.
Yeah.
It was about Meridian and church bombings, Meridian. And it was very, very disorienting to me as a young adult to look at that index and see folks that fell on different sides of some of those issues, the heroes and the villains, and then to know some of them as an elderly Sunday school teacher who maybe has this different past and maybe they're not who they were. Yeah. It's all
Isn't it fascinating? Yeah. There's so much about Jackson, and there's right after Brown versus Board of Education, where there's 100 Black ministers in Fair Street Baptist Church. And it is a heated argument over whether they should accept the governor's promise that
Mhm.
he'll give black schools more money if they stay segregated.
Right.
Hey, let's take the money versus no, we're going to integrate. We're going to be one. Then them leaving Fair Street Baptist Church and talking to the governor and the people in that sanctuary that day in the late 50s decided, no, we're going to push for integrated schools, which surprised the governor. The governor thought they were going to come in saying, okay, we'll take more money for our black high schools.
But there's a lot of discomfort in the change on both
Oh,
communities. I have to
yes.
check that out.
Yeah, that's what's so great about the book. You realize everything is nuanced and every group has a subgroup and has the things going on. That's really good. I also read lately a book called Untethered. Have you ever read that book?
heard of that book, but I can't place what it's about.
Well, I'll tell you, it's really about,
Write things down.
reminding yourself that you're more than your thoughts. You're more than what other people say about you. And it gives you techniques on how to break away from some of these ways that we tend to overthink,
Oh,
over worry. And it really was a game changer for me. In fact, I'm a spiritual guy. You'd hope that if I'm a pastor, right?
one would
You'd
hope.
hope I'd be interested in spiritual things. But it's really changed kind of the way I pray. At the end of the day, there's a thing called examine, prayer examine. It's where you're asking God to kind of search, what did I do today? Where did I feel close to God? Where did I feel alienated? Where did I feel in? But what I've done at the end of the day lately is I've asked myself and asked God, what was my mindset like today?
Mm.
Because if you go back through and ask yourself what you were thinking during the day, you don't have to be hard on yourself. You don't have to, it's not a guilt trip thing.
Right.
But if you start to if you start to think about your thoughts,
Mm,
you will self-edit.
right.
There was a guy in London, England, who taught this class, and that was the one thing he did. There were 2 or 3 things that his students had to do in this college in England. They don't have enough. Every student wants to take it. So
Mhm.
you have to write an essay in order to get into class. It's
Wow.
Life 101.
That's my dream. Is
Yeah.
to go to class and be like
Life
the
101.
fighting to get into.
And so one of the things you had to do that semester was you had to say goodbye to people as if it was the last time you saw them, every time. And then you had to write down all your thoughts during the day because he
Uh-huh.
believed if you wrote them down and looked at them, you will automatically edit out the horrible toxic stuff once you see you're feeding yourself.
Right.
Anyway,
That's-
yeah, so that's what I'm doing
Yeah,
lately.
see, and I've written down, and we will put in the show notes the name of those books too.
Yeah.
To make
Yeah.
sure you know those. That's great. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more, Bruce, if it's okay with you, about how you've come to be here. You've talked a lot about the idea of justice and concerns around your representation of community and things like that. So, kind of what life experiences got you here, like why we do what we do, right?
Sounds good.
So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Bruce to explore that a little bit more.
If you have enjoyed this podcast and some of the messages and ideas shared by Dr. Henderson here on Engaging with Monique, why not have her come and speak to your school, community group, conference, or nonprofit? From California to Texas to Mississippi to South Dakota, Dr. Henderson has extensive experience connecting with both large and small groups. Her energy and insights can challenge and grow your team to make a difference, even in challenging times of rapid change. As a former journalist and educational researcher, she is also skilled at facilitating panel discussions for a variety of groups. As one client said, Dr. Henderson is always the most energetic person in the room, and she can help to serve as a great reminder of why the work that we do matters, today and always. Email Monique at EnglishLearnersEngage.com or go to EngagingWithMonique.com for more information.
Okay, welcome back. I'm here again with the Reverend, right, Reverend? Did we say that? No, that's not our.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Reverend Bruce Case. And Bruce, you've talked a lot about concern about marginalized people and things like that. And so when people have something that really makes them, kind of drives them, right? I always wonder, how did you come to be here? For me, and I've shared this a little bit, one of my motivations is being adopted and growing up being very aware that any person that I laid eyes on could conceivably be my brother, my mother, my father, right? It was actually a little bit of a bummer when that question was answered because I know in a weird way I lost. It was great.
You lost that magic and
but
mystery.
that mystery of like
Yeah.
in the way that it kind of informed, and then also the knowledge that I could have easily been in foster care, had a different family, or all of the luck and the spinning of the wheel
Yeah.
that is
Oh,
where you're
boy.
born, right? And then who you're
Yeah.
born to, or not even born to, but who raises you. So where, kind of thinking back on your life, where does that come from? And you don't get to say God.
I can't just say Jesus like in the children's moments.
Yeah.
The kids always wonder what Jesus.
Probably a sandwich.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Jesus. Yeah, that's right. It's a great question. I would say that my mother and then my paternal grandmother had more of have both had big roles in how I ended up where I ended up. My mom grew up in Birmingham, and she
Okay.
grew up in Bull Connors South. She grew up Baptist, but they were kind of nominal Baptist, but she really saw really in all the churches. It wasn't just the Baptists in Birmingham. I
Okay.
promise you that much. It was Methodist and everybody else too, but she saw the deep hypocrisy
Mhm.
between what people were saying on Sunday morning and what was going on in Birmingham at
Wow.
the time. And she nearly I would say, she nearly lost her faith, or at least in Christianity.
Mm.
And I'm a military brat. And
Me
so,
too. I didn't know
yeah,
that. Yeah.
it was in the Air Force at the time. I was born in Bossier City.
Okay. Come on.
And
It's a
yeah,
different set. The
it
built-in
is,
military. You do have a built-in sense of equality. I noticed that taking my dad to the VA.
no doubt.
You know, it was like everyone really felt very equal
Yeah.
there. Yeah, in a way
But
that
look,
should be everywhere.
civil rights was started by Black World War II
Mm.
veterans coming back. It was a military movement. In Alabama, there was a decorated Black soldier on a bus who could not use the bathroom in the whites only bathroom. And those are some of the earlier
Right.
stirrings of, you had these guys that after you've been in World War II, you're a little bit less fearful of
Right.
what might could happen. They're called Buffalo Soldiers. Medgar Evers, a hero in Mississippi, is buried in Arlington.
Right.
And when he came back from the war in front of the Decatur courthouse, he registered to vote. And all these people that he thought were his friends were driving by calling him all kinds of names and intimidating him, didn't get to. Anyway, but back to my mom.
Yeah.
Back to my mom. I digress. So we're in Shreveport. My dad's serving a stint in Shreveport. And they're going, I'm a toddler, I don't remember, but they're going to First United Methodist at the time, First United
Okay.
Methodist in downtown Shreveport. It is a big church. It's a wealthy church. I think they're funded by 2 oil wells. If you can believe it. I was like, wow, I wish we were funded by oil wells,
We
but
did
that's
some cool
okay.
stuff,
I can get
yeah.
my private plane and all this great stuff. Anyway, there was a preacher by the name of D.L. Dykes, and D.L. Dykes was really way ahead of his time. And he preached sermons that really resonated with my mom. And they were necessarily justice sermons, but they were sermons about the interconnectedness of all things and how a broader gospel than me trying to get saved, so to
Right.
speak. And that we're responsible for each other, that we should love each other, all that. And that really lit a fire under her. So when we moved back to Brookhaven, she was the district president of the United Methodist Women.
Oh.
And in the United Methodist tradition, Methodist women were always way ahead of the church in all kinds of ways. She did a lot of district events, and she would take me when I was a child to these country Black churches.
Mm.
She was trying to get Black women and white women in the same room together
Wow.
to see what could happen.
Wow.
And a lot of magic happened during that time. And she had a humongous impact on my faith. My grandmother, who was born and raised a Methodist in Cushman, Arkansas, outside of Batesville, Arkansas, she had a huge impact on my life too. And for some of the same reasons, I think she was ahead of her time in Brookhaven. Those were the big things. Going to Brookhaven High, being a part of a newly integrated school system, and the way the Brookhaven school system did it back then is the way I think a lot of county seat and smaller town schools did it. They took all the Black schools and took all the white schools. They divided them up. And so you kept going across the tracks to the next. You would go 2 years to the white
Right.
school, in second and third grade. Then you go to fourth and fifth grade at Fannie Mullins, the traditional black school. Then you would go to C.H. Lindsay, which was the white school, sixth and seventh grade. Then Alexander, formerly Alexander Junior High, Alexander High School was the black school. And then
There's some choppy things that you see in school districts sometimes with the
Yeah.
grades where you're like, what's happening here? And it breaks down to those
kind of
facilities.
integration. But being in a school wasn't perfect. And it was more or less white dominated space, but there were 263 black students in my grade and 263 total. So
Oh.
about 130 white folk, 130 black folk.
Wow.
So
That's
those power dynamics, you really did get a great cultural education. That was huge. I was a football manager at Mississippi State. That paid for my education at Mississippi State. Being on the football team, a minority in this little group.
Yeah.
And so all these things helped expose me to all kinds of black cultures. There's not one, right? In Mississippi, I had black friends who love riding horses
Right,
and
a
loved
more
hunting
rural
deer. I didn't hunt
experience.
deer,
Yeah.
never did that. They did that, a little bit more urban. So there are all these, and I'm thinking it helped me along the way to get out of my little bubble, and it made scripture and the gospel come alive. So those things.
Definitely. That's amazing. Yeah. I think definitely public schools informed me. I graduated from Meridian High. At the time, had zero awareness that integration was as recent as it was. But I think it was the high school class before mine, 91, had the first prom since integration because they stopped having the
Altogether.
prom. Just mysteriously, when integration happened, we decided that we couldn't do prom anymore. And so I think it was a class of 91 or 90. I'm sure some Wildcats are going to reach out and let me know if I'm wrong. But that was a big deal. And I remember it was even in the media. But that was the beginning of me kind of going, this is recent. Because
Yes.
when you're a kid, when you're 18 or 16, 10 years ago or 20 years
Yeah.
ago, it's like, if it's pre your memory, it's almost like it doesn't, you can't relate.
But it's interesting because you're a little bit younger than I am. Not much. I think you're a little bit younger, 4 years. So I graduated in 88 in Brookhaven, Ohio, which means I was a first grader in 1976, which means they were only 4 or 5 years into integration when I started.
Right.
I didn't know. I was 6 years old,
Yeah.
whatever. But
You just went because your parents
I
told
just
you it was
went
time
because
to
that's what they said to
go.
go. I walked to first grade at Brookhaven Elementary. But you could pick up on stress. You could pick up on my black teachers who went to Jackson State, Alcorn State, and Mississippi Valley. Now looking through, not then, when I was young, not then, but I could sense there was something a little different. But now looking through my memory, I'm realizing, my goodness, they had to be 10 out of 10 excellent because they had to. It's almost like they had to prove themselves. And so I remember the Henderson twins. I remember they're both still alive and healthy and wonderful and beautiful, amazing, strong women. Both of them taught me in the Brookhaven school system, and they dressed to the nines. They looked like they were walking out of a fashion magazine. They looked like teachers,
Right.
but they
almost like
were
a corporate feel.
professional, structured, which
Yeah.
I needed that anyway.
Yeah.
But I reached out to them and to Miss Brenda Young, who was an awesome teacher who was black at Libsey. After all the stuff during COVID and civil unrest, George Floyd's murder and all that, I wrote notes to all three of them. And
Wow.
I got notes back.
Wow.
Who knows if they remember me? Teachers teach hundreds of
They do.
people, right? But they were big in my mind.
Right. And that's the
And
important thing is that you let them know. what
I
They remember.
did. I did. I told them how lucky I felt that they were my teachers, that I had great teachers, both white and black. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. And that was funny. And I wish I knew the name of the book, but there's a woman that wrote a book about private school, sex schools or private school education in Mississippi. And we're talking about, and she was great. And she said, look, I graduated Pill Academy. I'm not telling anybody you're a bad person because that happened. But the book processes that experience. And when she talked about it, she made me realize even public school was sort of kind of like white space. It was still white dominated space. And so there was still that, but I found that really fascinating. I need to read that book. I haven't read it because I had a lot of friends that went to private schools and what was their experience.
Right.
Yeah. So there you go. That's a lot.
Interesting. We're going to take a little more break. And when we come back, I want to ask you a little bit about what kind of gets you up and going on your hardest day. I don't know if you ever go down to come back up, but if you sleep with all those buckets that you have, but we'll talk a little bit about that. And then a little bit about one or two things that you're learning about right now. So we'll be back with Reverend Bruce Case in a moment.
Are you an educator who gets to experience the joy and privilege of serving English learners at the classroom, school, or district level? We can help to ensure that your students are getting what they need and helping you to feel more equipped to serve them well. English Learners Engage is a Mississippi-based educational consulting company owned by Monique that provides professional development, in-classroom teacher coaching and modeling, student tutorials, and products focused on serving multilingual students. We also provide technical support. Dr. Henderson's 2 books, 31 Things Your English Learners Want You to Know, Lessons from the Classroom, along with a sequel, are quick, accessible reads, perfect for a school or district-wide book study or for individual teachers. Each chapter is concise and clear, starting with a story about a specific student or group of students and ending with a quick tip and reflection question. Whether your school has 1 English learner who needs to build English proficiency or 1,000, EL Engage and Dr. Henderson can support you. Working together, we can take your English learners to the next level. Reach out today at Monique at EnglishLearnersEngage.com to see EL Engage's results and to get Monique and her team working for you.
And we are back again. We get to be here with the Reverend Bruce Case. And you guys have probably picked up on the fact he's got a lot going on, both in terms of activity and always thinking, right? But I assume that you being a human being, even if you do have Reverend in front of your name, probably means that some days it maybe is a little harder to rally yourself. So that I think we all have those days. What gets you up and going and trying to make the world a little bit better on the lower days or the hard days?
It's usually little things. I do have bad days. I have days where that didn't go any way as planned, or that I wish I hadn't said something or done something. And I think we all do.
Sure.
A couple things, paying attention, thinking about what I'm thinking. That goes back to Untethered, that book has really helped. I might say to myself, boy, you're feeling really anxious going to this meeting. Hey, what's going on behind that anxiety?
A curiosity about it.
Holy curiosity. And I think it's also being okay with whatever's happening in the moment. I'm angry. Okay. Where's that coming from? Instead of trying to fight it, embrace it. What's going on there? I truly believe, and this works for me a lot, that it's really hard for gratitude and fear to stay in the same room. I'm really a believer in different times of the day. God, thank you if I can fill my tank up and don't have to worry. Thank you for my family. Thank you that my adult children kind of like hanging out with me. And I try to think about things that I take for granted. My lungs work. My heart's beating. I'm not asking it to beat.
Yeah, ability is one I think about a lot.
Mobility, all the things. And when you go through a little bit of a session there, it really does pick you back up, or at least it puts everything into perspective. Music picks me up. I love music. I play guitar. I love to sing. I love to listen to good music. And
what is good music?
I like all genres. I really like that. Anything. I like lyrics that tell a good story.
I have learned my genre. There's this thing you can take on a website, something else I need to look for the show notes, and it'll tell you what your genre is. And mine is apparently singer-songwriter. I would be surprised if that's you.
I bet that's mine, because I love good music. And in this day and age, what's so awesome is that used to you only had a few choices, or it was a few bands, but now there's so much more music that you can find. I love hearing a new song, but I also listen to an old song that I like. But music really does feed my soul. A sense of humor gets me back up. Be able to laugh at life, even when you kind of feel like crying.
Yeah.
But also a good cry. I even preached on lament on Sunday, which is sort of naming the reality. And it's not necessarily about complaining.
Right.
You're doing holy lament when you're naming the reality and you're giving it to God. believing and hoping that things will change. And that's different than complaining or
Right.
being cynical. But a good holy lament every now and then is not a bad thing.
Anytime I'm complaining to my family, I'm gonna be like, this is not complaining, this is a holy lament.
Yeah, you tell them, let's
Okay.
holy lament to you. And they have to say,
State of this room.
yeah. Yeah. But it's mainly these little things that turn into big things.
Right.
Okay. You're not going to understand why everything happens the way it does.
Yeah.
You're never going to understand that.
List of questions for God
exactly.
when I get up there.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, holding things lightly, I think. And for me, this may not work for everybody, but for me, you might guess this, you may not, or it might surprise you, but my motor runs high. And being aware of that and stepping down, being aware of that when I'm around other people, going, okay, it doesn't have to run high. I can be real quiet and listen, observe, pretend I'm an introvert, pretend.
Right. Issue is I'm a fast actor. I make a decision fast, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes my issue with people in a workspace or whatever is I'm like, okay, so these are the 3 action steps, and are we good? And you get buy-in, but then it's that sometimes people need to step back and really think about each step,
Thanks.
how it's going to work, what's it going to look like. Whereas I am a quick decider. There are people that won't come on the podcast for example, without a lot of questions. They're like, what exactly are you going to ask? And what's the purpose? And can I see an example? And then there are people like you that are just like, I don't guess I have anything at 9 o'clock. So I've learned to appreciate both, but also to slow down to honor who they are. And that
exactly. Kind of going through, there's no doubt. And so many times too, when you're working in a group, if you're working in a group, somebody's going to operate with it. They're bringing another operational man to them. And to be curious, a holy curiosity, and to ride their waves
right.
And almost to process empathetically. Is it good?
That's good stuff. We're going to come back after one more quick break, and we're going to talk about 2 pieces of advice. At first I was saying, that your 2 favorite pieces of advice are that just felt like too high pressure. But 2 pieces of advice that you've either learned in your own life or come across that you think people would benefit from. So we'll come back in just a moment, and I'm really curious to hear that.
Hey, my name is Jonathan Tullis. I'm the guy that's been editing this podcast. And if you like what you're hearing, I'd love to talk to you about what I can do for your nonprofit or your church or parachurch organization. I'm the founder of Strangely Warmed Media, a digital media consultancy that specializes in taking organizations to where they want to be in all aspects of digital media, including websites, podcasts, live streaming, and more. If you want to learn more, I invite you to visit my website at strangelywarmed.media. That's strangelywarmed.media, and learn about how Strangely Warmed Media can partner with you.
Welcome back again one more time with the Reverend Bruce Case. Bruce is I think this is the hardest thing that we typically ask on the show, but maybe not. And that is, what 2 pieces of advice that you think have a lot of value that way?
I think the first one that it sticks. I love advice. I'm a quote junkie. I'll go down X and I look for little quotes and wisdom, and then I'll save them. And do I go back to them? Sometimes I do. Sometimes I don't. But years ago, I read in a book called The Leading Causes of Life, which is really good. It's another good one by a couple guys, amidst in talking about cohesion, blessing, agency, hope. And there's a little more in there. Get the book. But they quoted Dr. Jonas Salk, who, as we know, developed polio vaccine, changed the world. Yeah. What people don't realize too is that I think he shared that patent, but it got filthy rich. All of it. Sorry, Siri. But he could have gotten filthy rich, but he shared it, made it public domain.
Mm-hmm. I remember this from 6th grade science.
When he was touring in the United States, somebody asked him, hey, what's your secret to life? I don't know much about the man. I'm sure that would be
I'm glad you're saying that, because I'm like, I'm not. Jonas Salk was pretty limited.
I know mine is too, and I'm sure he's a fascinating human being. Was a fascinating human being, but he said my secret is this: die young as late as you can.
I like it.
And I love that, to be playful, to never get so serious, whether you're on the top of the mountain or the valley. that you can't be playful. And of course, that matches Jesus's childlike faith. Be a beginner, stay young, don't get old in the worst kinds of ways. And that quote's been a good companion to me.
You really said that keeping young. It's interesting that you're saying that, because when you were talking about music before, I was thinking about how young people today, I'm lucky enough to have a lot of young people in my life, and you probably are
Yeah.
too, between
Yeah.
your own kids and your church, but they are open to so much more music,
Oh,
so much more from different periods of time. And it makes me think a lot about how we need to be open to the lessons from different generations, right? Like,
absolutely.
yeah, it's kind of neat. I don't ever want to be like that person that's always thinks that the younger generation, everything is flawed or everything is,
Yeah.
there's a lot of wisdom in each generation.
There
They have to
is.
say,
We're all flawed and brilliant and beautiful all
yeah,
the same time, and
exactly.
looking for the best in all the generations, for sure.
So that was one piece of advice. Other one,
I think Rumi said
Mm.
this, but he said, "Sell cleverness, buy wonder."
oh,
And I know that's a lot like the first
Mhm.
one. I admit
Sell
that.
clever.
But that has stuck with me for a long time. And I think that there's this, was at an interfaith conference years back at Lake Junaluska, North Carolina.
Like Jack-
That was an unbelievable experience. But there was a Jewish rabbi, and we were all talking about making peace, dialogue, all the things that dealing with hard issues and learning how to listen and
yeah.
speak. She said, someone really gets angry or loses their cool or shares something with you that almost shocks you. She says, the best thing you can do is to get curious.
Yes.
And if you can do that, and so you get, even if it's, you have no idea, they said something that shocked you. You say, hey, tell me, how did you come to, like, how did you come to look? And so instead of trying to get baited into an argument, just try to peel away the layer and help that person. Because a lot of times it's almost disarming when you do that in a way. You're not scared off, or you're not shouting back.
Right.
You're going, I want to understand better. And you don't have to agree with it. And it may even be repulsive. And yet, to me, that's a tool that helps you to walk into any tunnel or on any path. You can do that. So staying curious. And the other side of that is self-cleverness. You don't have to be clever. You don't have to win every argument. You don't even have to be, you don't have to get into every argument you're invited to. It's okay to say, I've got a developing opinion on that. I don't have a strong opinion on that. What do you think?
Now, I think that social media has fueled where there have been a couple of things, even like celebrity happenings or whatever, where I'll sit there and go like, oh my goodness. Like I'll walk around going, what is my opinion on that? Like no one's asking me. And why do you think I needed to decide if I was for or against this or that? Or
That's right. That's right. I think those are good things, at least for me. I grew up in a household where you could disagree with somebody at the table. And you were given, you could do that and not walk away mad at each other. I think my parents modeled a good way to talk about hard to talk about things. Then you go out in the world and you realize that not everybody's used to that. So you can't assume that everybody wants to have difficult conversations all the time. And when you feel like someone is getting aggressive, get curious. It's sometimes new things can come to light.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, listen, Bruce, as much as we hate it, our time together has come to an end, but we're definitely going to have you back, because I'm over here writing all sorts of notes about fun plates to spin around was kind of one of the things that you talked about on this show. And I've got definitely some books I'm adding to my reading list. So we really appreciate the time that you've taken to be with us and some of the wisdom that you've shared. And even more than that, thanks for being out in the world and trying to make it a little bit better, as we also are walking alongside you in the podcast world, trying to make things a tiny bit better as we can. So
thank you, Monique.
Thanks for being
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. And so for the rest of you guys, in the meantime, you definitely want to check out Bruce's book recommendations in the show notes. And also, if you enjoyed this podcast, and we hope you did, tell a friend. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Engaging with Monique. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for spending part of your day engaging with Monique. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, so you'll know when the next episode drops. Find our Facebook page for show notes and more. And don't forget to tell a friend about how much you love engaging with Monique.